Why do you want to work at Google? Hey everyone, we're here today with Henry. We're going to be doing a mock behavioral interview. But before we get into it, Henry, could you just introduce yourself quickly for folks watching?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Henry. I used to work at Google as a product marketing manager. Now I work at a startup, and I also have a channel called SF Yuppies, and I just make random videos.
Cool, and we'll put a link to that in the description below. Well, Henry, it's super great to have you on the show. I think folks watching this video, if you're nervous about the behavioral interviews, it can be really scary. You don't know how to answer them, and they can come up throughout different interview questions. So it's kind of hard to know which way to go about that answer. And so today we're going to be focusing on a very simple type of question, which is why do you want to work at this company? And we can frame it in terms of Google because that's where Henry worked. That's also where I used to work. And so we'll frame it in terms of that question, and we'll see how Henry would go about it in this answer, and then we'll debrief at the end about what we think went well. And so without further ado, Henry, let's jump into it. Why do you want to work at Google?
Yeah, for sure. I really want to work at Google because I love the mission statement. I love that you guys are you're organizing the world's information and making that universally accessible. And I think that's a great mission because a lot of people don't have that same access to information that we do in the United States. Specifically, I love the work that you're doing with Project Loon, bringing the internet to rural areas. I love the work that you're doing with Google Translate, making it easy for people to communicate with each other. And then also just making everyday life easier for people, such as using tools such as Gmail, search, and all of that information. So I really like that you're making that information accessible to everyone, and then you're also bringing the world together through information. The second reason I want to work at Google is because of the culture. And I've only heard nothing but good things about Google, working at Google. Some of my friends actually work at Google, so I've been able to hear from them what they have to say. From what I can gather, it seems like it's an environment where people are very motivated, selfless, and creative. And I think that's a great place for me to grow as an individual, and then also a great place for me to kind of contribute to something bigger than myself. And I truly believe that I have what it takes to be googly. And from what I can know, from what I understand, googly means first to be a self-starter, be motivated to actually take action to solve problems that other people might not have thought of. Second is to be a great team player. So working with others, putting others before yourself, and then also just going that extra mile. And then thirdly is just being a creative thinker, think outside the box and think of ways to push society forward. So I think the combination of the mission statement as well as the culture makes it a great, appealing place for me to work at. So that's why I want to work at Google.
That's awesome, Henry. I have just two quick follow-up questions. One, if you had to pick a Google product or team to work at, if you were working at Google, which team would you pick?
For me, I would say Project Loon, because it's really pushing the boundaries of technology and really providing a social good to society, especially to the people who need it the most. And I feel like that's a place where I would really want to bring my talents and really contribute to.
Awesome. And then last question, if, let's say we're talking a lot about why you're excited to work at Google, what's one thing that you might be concerned about when you're considering working at Google?
Ooh, I need to think about from
Totally. Take your time.
non-Google knowledge person. Okay, I'll just give my honest answer. I think the one thing I would be concerned about working at Google is that whether Google still has that innovative thinking and creative freedom, if you would, if you can say that, because Google is getting bigger. I think it grew from like 20,000 to almost 100,000 people today. I know, for example, 20% project is a big thing, was a big thing at Google, where people can take on projects to outside of their work function to learn and grow. And then also ideas didn't need as much process or approval. So I wonder if that is still an issue today at Google. But from what I can gather, it seems like Google's still pushing Steam rolling forward. So I don't think that's a big concern.
Awesome. Well, Henry, this was great. I know this is a short one, but we can kind of take off the interviewee hat and then we can just kind of debrief how that was for you. Any thoughts, reactions on how you did in that answer, or anything you would change if you were going to go back and do the answer over again?
I would probably, first of all, memorize the mission statement. I kind of forgot it slightly there. I think in terms of tying the mission statement back to my own personal statement would have been good if I had some time to think about that. But otherwise, I think the mission and the culture were the big ones that I needed to convey.
Yeah, totally. Just throughout the answer, could really hear a lot of elements that I thought were really great. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I thought was so awesome about this answer. One, you were structured. You went through and you're like the mission, the culture. You kind of bookmarked the answer, so it was helpful for me to follow. Also, starting with a mission is always a really great place to start in these answers. Like, this is why I want to work at this company, is because the mission is so great, and I really believe in that mission. And then you even brought up specific instances and specific examples that demonstrated your knowledge of the company. So I think both, as an interviewer, we're looking for understanding, okay, does this person actually want to work here? Do they know about the company? But do they know specifically things about the company? And that was kind of what that second question was, like, where do you want to work at the company? So I thought that was really great. I think you also did a great job of kind of speaking off the cuff, feeling very conversational and very natural. One concern that happens a lot in these interviews, especially the behavioral ones, is people seem very stiff and very kind of postured as they answer, and it doesn't seem very genuine or authentic. But it did kind of feel like you were just conversationally telling me, like, this is what I like about Google, this is what I don't like. I don't think it's that big of a concern, but I felt like I could trust you in that answer. And I think genuineness is really important in these. And then, if I gave one constructive piece of feedback, maybe it would be mentioning, as you mentioned, like bringing in your personal mission a little bit more into it. So we heard a lot about why you're interested in the company, but why should the company be interested in you? Or how does it tie into your personal goals? And I can kind of hear it through what you were saying about social impact and, changing lives outside of the US and things like that. But making that a little more explicit could be helpful too. But overall, this is a really great answer, and hopefully it helps people watching who can get really nervous about these types of answers. And they're really simple, they're really meant to be genuine, and the way Henry did it is a really great example of it. Henry, is there anything else you wanted to share before we close today? Any other thoughts, tips for folks watching?
No, I think you hit home the points.
Awesome. Well, for folks watching, if you want to learn more about Henry and his YouTube channel, you can check out SF Yuppies. It'll be in the description below. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Exponent, we help people land their dream tech job. We do that with our online courses, coaching, and community to help people land their dream tech job. We have a full resources and community to help you, where you can do peer practice interviews and you can meet other people who are preparing for the same interviews as yourself. So definitely check it out at tryexponent.com. And for those of you watching, also definitely consider hitting a like button and subscribing if this content was valuable to you. Thanks again, Henry, for being on the show. It's really great to have you. And for those of you watching, good luck on your upcoming interview.